July 1999. Two men with a metal detector and a shovel climb a hill in eastern Germany in the middle of the night. They are not archaeologists. They are looters, and they are about to unearth something that will rewrite the history of human astronomy. The detector screams. They dig, and 20 centimeters down, their shovel hits metal. They pull out a disc, 32 centimeters wide, heavy, bronze turned green by 3,000 years underground, and across its face, hammered into the surface in pure gold, the sun, the moon, 32 stars, and a tight cluster of 7 points that can only be one thing. The Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, recognizable, unmistakable, older than any written language in Europe. They wrap it in a jacket and vanish into the dark. It will take 3 years, an international smuggling ring, and an undercover police sting to get it back. Because what they just dug up and nearly destroyed is the oldest known map of the night sky ever made by human hands. This is the Nebra sky disk, and it should not exist. The hill is called Mittelberg. It rises above the town of Nebra in Saxony-Anhalt, eastern Germany. Flat farmland. Quiet. Unremarkable. Except that 3,600 years ago, someone built a wooden enclosure on its peak, a ring of posts aligned to the solstices, and buried something sacred at its center. On the night of July 4, 1999, two men named Henry Westphal and Mario Renner brought a metal detector up that hill. They were treasure hunters, Raubgräber, literally grave robbers, operating illegally under German law, which makes any archaeological find property of the state the moment it is discovered. They found the disc 20 centimeters down, inside what must have been a wooden box that had rotted away. With it, 2 bronze swords, 2 axes, 2 spiral arm rings, and a bronze chisel, a hoard, a ritual burial, a time capsule from the Bronze Age. Westphal and Renner dug fast. They pried the objects out with the shovel. They damaged the edges of the disc. They obliterated the context, the soil layers, the placement, the evidence that would have told us exactly when and how it was buried. Then they drove away and sold the entire hoard on the black market for 16,500 German marks, about $8,000. The disc disappeared into the underworld of antiquities smuggling. For 2 years it moved through private collections, shown only to buyers who would not ask questions. The German state had no idea it existed. Archaeologists had no idea a Bronze Age star map had just been ripped out of the ground and sold like scrap. And then someone talked. February 2002. A tip reaches the State Office for Heritage Management in Saxony-Anhalt. Someone is trying to sell an ancient bronze disc. The price, 300,000 marks. The location, Basel, Switzerland. The German authorities do not have jurisdiction in Switzerland, so they call the Basel police and propose a sting. An undercover officer will pose as a buyer. The deal, a hotel room, cash on the table, and a signal to move in the moment the sellers produce the disc. On February 23, 2002, the meet happens. The smugglers bring the disc in a bag. The officer examines it, gives the signal. Swiss police flood the room. They seize the disc, arrest the sellers, and within hours the object is on its way back to Germany under armed escort. When archaeologists finally get their hands on it, they realize immediately what they are looking at. And the realization is this: nobody in Europe was supposed to be doing astronomy like this in 1600 BCE. The disc is a bronze circle, 32 centimeters across, covered in a patina of green malachite from centuries underground. Hammered into its surface in gold leaf are 32 stars. A circular disk that is either the sun or a full moon, a crescent moon. And the Pleiades, 7 gold points clustered together in a shape that anyone who has ever looked up in winter will recognize instantly. But the strangest details are the arcs. 2 curved bands of gold, one on each edge. They were added later. You can see where the original stars were covered. Each arc spans exactly 82 degrees. Not random, not decorative. 82 degrees is the angle between the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunrise on the winter solstice, as seen from the latitude of Nebra. The same angle for sunset. Whoever added those arcs was encoding the extreme positions of the sun across the year. They were turning a picture of the sky into a calendar. Here is the problem Bronze Age astronomers faced. The moon moves fast. 29.5 days from new moon to new moon. 12 lunar months make 354 days. But the solar year, the time it takes the Earth to circle the sun, the cycle that governs the seasons, is 365.25 days. Use a lunar calendar, and within 3 years your months are wrong. Your winter festivals happen in autumn. Your planting season drifts into summer. You lose the ability to predict when to sow, when to harvest, when to prepare for the freeze. The solution is called intercalation. Every few years, you add an extra month to pull the lunar calendar back into alignment with the sun. But how do you know when? You need a rule, a marker, a celestial signal that says, now. Add the month now. The Pleiades were that signal. In March, just before the spring equinox, the Pleiades set in the west right after sunset. If the crescent moon appeared near the Pleiades on that evening, you were in sync. If the moon was somewhere else, if it had drifted too far ahead, you added a 13th month. That reset the calendar and brought the seasons back into line. This rule is written down in Babylonian texts from centuries later, but the Nebra disk shows it being used in Bronze Age Germany, 1,000 kilometers to the northwest, at least 500 years earlier. It means someone here understood the deep structure of time, that the cosmos runs on interlocking cycles, that you can model them, that you can control them. It makes the Nebra sky disk the oldest known concrete depiction of the heavens. Not abstract, not symbolic, a working tool, a Bronze Age computer for reading the sky. But for that to be true, it had to actually be Bronze Age, and there were people who did not believe it. The problem was the looters. Because Westphal and Renner destroyed the archaeological context, there was no stratigraphy, no datable organic material, no sealed layer to lock the disk into a moment in time. Just their word that it came from Middelburg, and their word was worth exactly nothing. So skeptics emerged, archaeologists who argued it was too sophisticated, too perfect, that it had to be a modern forgery planted in an old site, or an ancient disk decorated in the 19th century when Bronze Age Romanticism was in vogue. To prove them wrong, scientists had to do two things. First, prove the disk was genuinely ancient. Second, prove it came from where the looters said it did. They started with the bronze itself. Copper and tin, alloyed in the ancient way. Trace element analysis showed the copper came from the Alps, from ores mined in Austria. The tin likely came from Central Europe. The gold was traced through isotope fingerprinting to alluvial deposits in the Carnon River in Cornwall, England. Cornwall, that is 2,000 kilometers from Nebra. In 1600 BCE, there were no roads, no maps, no postal system. Yet somehow, gold mined in Britain made its way across Bronze Age Europe and ended up hammered onto a disk buried on a hilltop in Germany. It proved something staggering. The Bronze Age was not isolated villages scratching in the dirt. It was a web, a continent-spanning trade network moving metals, goods, and ideas across distances that were supposed to be impossible. But the detail that buried the forgery claims was the patina. The green crust covering the bronze is malachite, copper carbonate that forms when bronze corrodes underground over centuries. Forgers can fake it with acid, but genuine malachite grows in microscopic crystal layers, and those layers trap particles of soil. Scientists examined the patina under electron microscopes. The crystals were real. The soil particles embedded in them matched the soil chemistry of Middelburg. The rate of corrosion matched 3,000 years of burial. And buried inside the deepest layers, untouched since the disk was made, were particles of organic material that could be radiocarbon dated. The test came back. The disk was made between 2100 and 1700 BCE. It was buried around 1600 BCE. It had spent 33 centuries in the ground before two men with a metal detector ripped it out and sold it for the price of a used car. The Nebra sky disk now sits in the State Museum of Prehistory in Halle, Germany. It is a UNESCO memory of the world artifact. It cannot leave the country. It is displayed behind bulletproof glass in a darkened room, under light levels so low you have to let your eyes adjust to see it. When you finally do, what you are looking at is proof. Proof that 3,600 years ago, someone in Bronze Age Europe looked up at the night sky and understood it deeply enough to map it, to mark the solstices, to track the Pleiades, to build a tool that reconciled the movements of the sun and the moon, so that farmers in a river valley in what is now Germany could plant their crops at the right time and not starve when winter came. That person was not writing in cuneiform. They left no texts. Their language is lost. We do not know their name, their title, whether they were priest or astronomer or simply someone who paid attention and figured it out. But we know they were part of something. The Unetice culture, a Bronze Age network that stretched from the Alps to the Baltic, trading copper and tin and gold, building fortified settlements, forging swords and jewelry, and burying their most sacred objects on hilltops aligned to the sky. The objects buried with the disk were not random. 2 swords, 1 for each hand, ritual pairs, 2 axes, 2 arm rings, the chisel, and the disk at the center, wrapped, protected, meant to stay hidden. It was not treasure. It was knowledge made holy. And then the culture collapsed. The Unetice disappeared. The trade routes fractured. The bronze-working knowledge scattered. The hill was abandoned. And the disk stayed in the ground, waiting, while empires rose and fell above it, and no one remembered it was there. What saved it was dumb luck. That the looters dug in the exact spot. That someone turned them in. That police ran the sting before the disk could be melted down or vanish into a private vault forever. Because that almost happened. We almost lost the oldest map of the cosmos made in Europe, not to time, but to greed and ignorance and the black market. The Nebra sky disk is not just an artifact. It is a message, a transmission from a people who figured out how the heavens work using nothing but their eyes, the horizon, and 3,600 years of watching. It says, we were here. We understood. We built something that lasted longer than our cities, our language, our names. And it makes you wonder what else is still down there, under some hill, in some field, waiting for the right detector, the right storm, the right accident to pull it back into the light. What other messages are we walking over, every day, that would rewrite everything we thought we knew about who came before us and what they could do? If that rattled you, the next one will finish the job. A 2,000-year-old machine that computed the cosmos. And we almost threw it away.